Time has come once again to speak as witches and wizards and spirits do. I'm Daniel and
I'm Michaela Gaffinstone.
we're your hosts for the Think Like a Wizard podcast. Welcome to Season 5, Episode 6, Agni. So this week, maybe to the disappointment of the listeners, there's no ChatGPT self-introduction and there's no meditation. So in way of introduction, Agni is the Hindu god of fire, amongst other things. More important to my work this week is his role in ceremonies and offerings. Huh. Well, that was very quick. Okay, so everyone knows that. We'll do a brief, quick physical description. If you look at paintings of him, you'll see not two-headed, but two faces, one angry, one calm, fire on the head. It's not how I saw him, but close enough. To me, to make more use of the ritualistic aspect, he looked more like a obelisk, like a humanoid-shaped obelisk. Same features though, and then fire on top of his head. And yeah, so the reason that's relevant, especially that part, is because when we did our spell, I ended up with divine fiery breath. Now, what does that mean? So, to speak with fiery breath is to speak the words of the gods. Not to speak passionately, as one might assume, but to speak with the breath of the gods. For me, I also saw my breath. Whenever I focused on my breath, I could see fire coming out of my mouth or my nose. Played around with it a little bit, pretended I was a dragon, all that kind of stuff. Did the I'm annoyed with you, and then fire coming out of the nostrils. Because, I mean, if you're going to do it, you might as well have fun with it. So, primary feature of that, this is the main and primary feature, is that you're speaking on behalf of gods. And this usually means that the person speaking can't lie. So I had a very honest week this week.
I love that it was just this week. Okay.
Yeah. Just this week. Totally not honest any other time. So since I'm out of town and I'm near Patrick helped me test it out. And among things, we learned that I cannot lie in a language I don't know. Like I can't repeat a lie. I can repeat a lie to say that I am repeating a lie, because then it's the truth. And what is it? I couldn't repeat a claim that I thought was false, even if it was necessary, even if it was like a popular saying, or it was kind of true. The words were accurate, but the intention wasn't. I couldn't repeat it, which led to kind of, because my work with him had a lot to do with the truth and what the truth means to people, or what it means in general. So I could do interesting things, like I could be sarcastic, as long as my sarcasm was obvious and what I meant with it was obvious. And I could make false statements as long as they brought you to the truth or were used in a certain way that the truth is evident when I said them. Like as if it was a saying I always used, even though the saying itself didn't match the actions I was about to take.
Interesting. Well, there's a difference between truth and accuracy, right?
Right.
Sometimes what is true is inaccurate.
Yes. Well, because it
And
made me
that's
think of the you see it in a lot on TV shows and that it's the when someone asks you if you did something and you say, "Well, I did not do it." Accurate word,
right.
but the words are used to distract you from the fact that you did it by adding some extra words in there to try to muddle it up.
Yeah, it's interesting what we do with language.
Mm.
And language is such a powerful thing. And the name that you invoke is has a power of its own. So Agni brings power to sacrifices, for
Right.
example. And again, full disclaimer, I'm not telling anybody to go sacrifice things. I'm just saying that that's how Agni has been traditionally invoked, or when, and where the power is. So, and with fire always comes chaos.
Yeah.
With fire, there is destruction and renewal. And, these are, it's going to sound odd to say, but these are some of my favorite things.
Mm.
that's,
Yeah.
that's like, that's my sandbox. That's what I
Yeah.
like to play with.
Yeah. Part of it is right. Fire, when used, not necessarily metaphorically, but when you use it in your practice, fire burns away the lies. And that was part of why the breath is fiery, to burn away the lies of your words or the lies in someone else. Because midway through the week, what ended up happening is I could now see fire in other people's breaths.
Yeah, that would be fascinating.
Yeah. So when people were making misleading statements or lying to themselves, the breath that like the fire would kind of curl back in and go back into the mouth. It wouldn't leave.
And
When people,
that would be such a useful thing to know, because I believe that people don't always know they're lying to themselves. Like, they're
right.
so good at it and they've done it for so long. And it's so important to not change the narrative that they're hanging on to, that they'll lie to themselves and not realize they're doing it. And that's where a lot of people get stuck. Is they tell themselves these lies that they've bought into, they believe. Maybe there's even a sunk cost in that, well, I've put all this effort into this thing, so I've got to be here now.
Mhm.
I can't change it, right? And people do that with relationships. They do it with, in these days, political views. It's like, well, I've said this and I've been doing this, and therefore I've got to keep doing that. Um, and so people will lie to themselves to keep them where they put themselves, right? So they don't have to change anything. It'd be really useful if they could have that ability to see, oops, I'm lying to myself. What's the truth,
Yeah.
really?
Well, and that's I guess it would be something you could ask Agni for. Like
I'm not sure everybody would want it, but I'm just saying it'd be useful.
but if you were looking for it and you establish your rapport with Agni, it would be something to look for. Or you
It's
can
something to
find
consider, right? Because if you're aware that you lie to yourself sometimes, then you already have a level of
right.
self-awareness that is missing for a lot of people who make a practice of lying to themselves. Right? So it's an interesting thought. But the fact that you could see the breath curling back in is
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, okay, that's interesting.
Well, that's yeah, it's one interesting. Is uh it is an interesting thing because it looks like the flame is what's the word I'm looking for? I was going to say constipated, but it's not the exact wording I'm looking for. It's like the flame didn't have the power to go out, so it curled back in on itself.
Yeah, changed its mind.
Yeah, that also led to me having a truths being revealed to me during the week. It
Hmm.
wasn't just my speaking; it was things being revealed to me. Like not everyone is necessarily excited about the stuff I do or the podcast, or some people think it's I'm running some kind of con here, some long prepping up for a long con. That
I
came up
think
during the week.
that is a fascinating concept. Like, I can't. Perhaps it's my limited imagination, and truth to tell, I don't think I have a limited imagination, but I cannot envisage how this would be a long con. Like, what would you do with it? How could it be played out that way? And I don't honestly want to spend time there, because it's a very negative
Yeah, I
space,
haven't had
and
a chance to
it's
fully explore it because I haven't seen the person who had said it. So yet, So,
It's just such an odd way to
yeah.
look at things. And for that person, like if you happen to be listening right now, I don't know you obviously, but I do invite you to have a look at where else are you looking at life that way? Because man, that is a damaged lens.
Mm,
That is a viewpoint that's going to keep you very stuck. And you might want to look and see where you can change that view because long con, really?
mm.
With this,
Like,
it's friggin' free, man.
well,
Like,
that's the thing. I would imagine the idea is that because like the podcast is free, right? And you can learn magic from the podcast. You know, if you start with season one, get the fundamentals of knowing yourself, and then just kind of looking at what we've talked about, you can figure it out. But yeah, I do also offer teaching. Like if you want to learn how to do something, you can pay me for it and I'll teach you. The podcast is free, but my overall service is as someone who's actually sitting down with you and teaching you is not. And that's
ah,
probably the long con.
something just came up for me. Okay, this is good. I just had a little clarity on that. And I don't know if this is accurate for this person, but it's coming up right now. And that is it's important too.
Mm-hmm.
People who work in the spiritual realm, whether it's magic, whether it's teaching you how to do things the way they've learned it, whatever that interaction is, this is not free because it's a charity. It's
Mm-hmm.
not like your right to have access to what we know and what we can do. You have no right whatsoever to what we know and can do. We can choose to give stuff, such as the podcast, and like every other human being on this planet, we use the currency of money in order to live. You have to buy your food that way. We can't barter for everything. So the concept that spiritual work should be for free or should be dirt cheap at the very least is not only incorrect, but it's kind of damaging because, as we've mentioned before, money is an energy exchange, right? Like you learn the thing, and in exchange, you give money, that kind of energy that is hopefully equal the value, right? Like that's the aim. So then it's an equal exchange, and it means that you can receive what you're looking for. When there's an imbalance, somebody's going to become resentful, which is the person who's doing the giving and
Right.
not particularly happy
Mm-hmm.
about it. And the person who's doing the receiving, funnily enough, can't receive it because they can't see the value. Why? Because the
Right.
person giving it isn't valuing it properly. And this is a universal truth and it's accurate, right? Like this is absolutely the way. So if you're looking at what we're doing spiritually and saying, well, I want it all for free, or this is a scam because, now you're going to hit us for big money, like, really? No. I am a coach. I work with human design. I work with my intuition. I bring other things to the party, and I don't think that's been hidden. That's very, very clear. Danielle, right from the get-go, you teach the fundamentals of magic, how to do the things, and you come from your trickster magic,
Right.
and you have your way of working. I have my way of working. This is not a long con. Obviously, we do this, and we also have to eat food. So,
Yeah.
if you want those services and it's specific, not from the podcast, then yeah, you're going to pay for that. That's not a con. And nobody
Yeah.
has a right to that for free. So, if you're harboring some kind of thoughts and feelings about that, dear listener, then I advise that you go and offload that someplace because that is inaccurate and it's unfair. Would you do your work for free? Would
Well,
you show up if you're an accountant or if you're working in a shop as a cashier? Would you go do it for free? Would you really? I think
right.
not. Right? How many people would do their jobs for free? So Danielle decided to do this podcast for free, and that's your choice. That's
Mm.
his choice, and invited me to join, and I'm happy to do so, also for free, because I'm just happy to do that. That's it. That's end of story. That's
Yeah.
where we're going with it. So long con, nah.
Yeah. It's funny, because when I was a salesman, one of the points they gave to us, especially for new salesmen, was people are going to ask you for a deal, but look at it like this. This is your paycheck. And, would you go up to someone working in a department store and say, "Hey, can I get this for cheaper?" Sorry, could your boss come up to you and say, "Hey, this week, I don't feel like paying you the full amount, so I'm going to take this amount off," right? Like you wouldn't do that. But it's the same thing when you're doing anyone who's offering you a service or selling you a product, like this is how they're making money. This is how they live. Like you're asking
Yeah,
them to take a pay cut.
basically, and when you ask for a discount on something, do you want the service to be discounted also?
Right.
Otherwise you are being incredibly rude to the person you're talking to as well, because you're basically saying, I think you're overcharging, or I think, yeah, either way you're asking too much. And if that's the case, then maybe you don't want what they're offering. Like you got to really consider. I think a lot of people speak before they
Mm.
think about it, and they go off on this tangent of, well, no, no, no. I work as a mechanic in a garage, so of course I'm going to get paid. But you do something spiritual, so no, you don't need to get paid for that. It's like, where did that judgment come from?
Yeah.
It's not accurate. So just consider that if that speaks to the person listening, the people listening. Where do you do that? Where do you ask for discounts where you wouldn't want the service to be less, and you wouldn't like somebody asking you if you'd take less money?
Right.
So I think we dealt with that one, but that came up very clearly for me. It's like, oh no, that's off. That's an unequal, inaccurate way of looking at energy exchange.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I won't lie. It was a bit of a blow to hear it. So,
It would be
yeah.
like I'd be rather wounded by that. Like that's how I come across. Like that. Wow, harsh.
Yeah.
Let me know if you hear dogs grumbling, because I
Yeah.
have dogs grumbling.
Yeah. No, so far I don't. I find the built-in microphones in the computers usually don't, or at this point they block out, but also depending what other kind
Good
of
thing.
microphone I'm using too. But yeah. So, all right.
It's based on
So,
a podcast.
yeah. Yeah. Agni's just sitting back there listening to what we're saying. Uh, so yeah, so a lot of honesty this week during
Well,
the
fire is also a great revealer,
yeah,
right? Fire uncovers what's underneath. Fire takes things down to the basics, down to the
yeah.
ground, if you will.
It literally takes what's inside something and brings it up.
Uh-huh. You are fully exposed when there is fire in place.
Yeah, that in my own elemental meditation practice, that's how I use fire. When I use it for the knowing part of using your energy, it's because I couldn't get it to give me anything else, like because I wanted an action and a knowing. And it was all excited to do knowing the fire, but it didn't want to do the knowing part. And I said, well, you got to give me something because this exercise doesn't work if you don't give me something. And it said, okay, I'll burn away the lies. That's what I'm going to give you for knowing. So even my own practice without really knowing the rest of the stuff, that's what I got from fire. That it'll
Mhm.
burn away lies. So
Yeah, no, fire is cleansing too. I
yes,
mean, if you think about before we had all the chemicals and harmful stuff we have now to sanitize things, how was it done? Fire.
right.
If you want to make a metal malleable, how are you going to do it? Fire. You want to turn glass into something? Fire. Fire
Yeah.
has a great many uses.
Yeah, it's interesting. So sitting here paying attention, and first we start off with honesty. Fire burns away things, and then it kind of felt like, oh, we're moving into basically what's fire good for, and that's because I mean he's a fire god, right? Even
Mhm.
though we were touching on the metaphysical parts of fire, but yeah, fire is fire changed the way humanity's existence completely. Once we had fire under once we could use fire properly, wow.
You can keep warm, you can
Yeah.
cook food. Fire transmutes. Fire
Mm.
changes things from what they are to what you maybe what you want them to be, but it will certainly change things. You know, if you have fire under a pan and you're cooking an egg, that protein is altered, it's
Right.
denatured and cannot be changed back. The fire or the heat has changed it. If you know, if it's wood that's burning, it's not the same. Candles, you know, like there's so many different ways to look at fire other than ouch, it burns. It's like, yes, and all the things it does and all the things it's used for we would be very, very stuck without it. Very stuck without it. Like it's a natural part of the world's processes,
Hmm.
like lightning strikes that hit forests and so on, burns the forest down, you have renewal. It's a natural cycle. Now, it's a bloody inconvenient cycle because we happen to be living in a lot of the space where, you know, those forest
Hmm.
fires are going to take place. Um, and it alters the landscape in a way that we don't like. But if you think about it, this is human aesthetics rather than anything to do with nature. Nature says, I don't actually give a rat's ass what you think about how it looks. This is how it's going to go.
Yeah.
And in order for these trees to renew and for the forest to be healthy, it needs to burn down. And so lightning strikes will do that. We
Yeah.
don't need people to help it along. You know, we don't need people
Um,
setting fires. That's randomized and destructive for no benefit. But, you know, the unfortunate thing is people have encroached on those lands. Obviously, where else are we going to be? And then it becomes problematic.
mm.
But we think a lot more about what we don't like on the cycle of destruction and rebirth purely from a it's inconvenient.
Right.
You know, I don't want it to do that. I'm not ready for it to do that. But nobody asked you.
Right.
Like it's not your choice.
I was actually going to add to your human beings thing. I was going to say, and if you're in Australia, then you have to watch out because birds are also contributing to forest fires.
Australia is you know, they've got a lot of things going on. If you want to look at a primordial place,
Yeah.
you know, go to the center of Australia or go up north,
Mm.
and you've got a lot happening there that's very different to elsewhere on the planet. And it's really back to basics. Like,
Mm.
yeah. And it's true, everything there does want to kill you. Like the insects, the snakes, the what have yous, they really do. Uh, for the listener that doesn't know, I lived there. I grew up there, and I was in the outback for a while. And literally, it's you know every day is a hazard. I didn't appreciate that at the time as I was a kid, but you know I do now.
Well, it's different when you're an adult and a parent than when you're a kid.
Oh yeah, yeah. As a kid, you have no fear, which is a good thing because literally everything's trying to kill you.
Yeah.
But somehow it misses.
Yeah. It's true. But yeah, so fire is not just like, yeah, fire is not just destruction. It's all kinds of creation. It's all kinds of transmutation,
Yep.
like bringing you from one place to another, just to yeah, like the whole phoenix metaphor of you burn and then you rise from your ashes. Like,
And the phoenix, a lot of people don't realize this, but the phoenix has to choose to burn
mm,
in order to rise from the ashes. It's not like, whoops, there was an accident. It's literally, I'm gonna burn everything down, me included, and then you have a rebirth. You rise from the ashes. Again, I'm not suggesting anybody go burn themselves or do anything crazy like that. But you know, we're talking about how fire shows up
right.
in the spirit world and in magic, mythology, all of the things. Um, and the phoenix is a famous one, but I think people typically don't realize how the fire starts. And it's the phoenix that
Yeah.
starts the fire.
Yeah, that is a very good one. People don't, yeah, it's a choice on the Phoenix's part to move on to something new.
Mhm. And just like the snake shedding its skin, it's necessary. It might not look good. It puts the being in a place of
Mm.
vulnerability, but it's also necessary for the next stage of growth
Right.
or for the rebirth. So yeah.
Yeah. To move on, sometimes you got to be ready to get rid of stuff to let things go away.
Oh yeah. Because if you don't, you can't move forward. And that's you, okay. I want to give you an example of in the mundane world. There's this couple I know that have been married for many years and they can't stand each other.
Mm.
I think I've mentioned them before.
Yes.
Bears mentioning again though, because it's such a stark example. They are horrible to each other. The things they say are, you know, stunningly bad. But they will not separate. They will not go and enjoy their lives separately because they both want the house they're in and they both want the stuff that's in it.
Right.
And so they are stuck. It's like their feet are in concrete because neither of them are willing to let go of stuff. Now, if an earthquake came and the whole thing fell down, where would they be? Like, where would their lives be?
Yeah.
And how would they then look back and say, "Oh, those were good choices," right? Like I did a brilliant thing being stuck in that goddamn house for the last 45 years or whatever,
Mm.
um, out of spite, or because I didn't want to give up my stuff. Wow. That is the ultimate expression of being stuck in your story and refusing to shed that skin. You won't set that fire, not burning the house, but the phoenix.
Right.
And you won't go for the rebirth of what else could be in your life. Can you imagine reaching the last day of your life? You look back, that's what you're looking at? Eek.
Right.
Wow. And that's an example, and it's a very concrete example. But where else do you do that in life? Where, well, I'll change all these things, but I'm not letting go of that. Can't let go of this. I can't walk away from that. I got to bring this with me. Do you though?
Right.
Why?
Well, I was gonna say,
What's
to bring it a little bit more, not dramatic, but like to really show how impactful it is. Think about addiction, be it drugs or whatever, food, alcohol, whatever. You have to shed your old lifestyle.
Yep.
You can't just get rid of the thing you're addicted to. You have to change everything about your life to kick your
The
addiction.
environment,
Yeah.
the environment, the people in it, because the people in it are typically part of the problem.
Hmm.
They're either doing the same thing or they're enabling you, or, it's part of the stuckness. And that can be the place where you don't want to change your friendships or you don't want to change the relationship level, whatever it is. But we all have something where there's an area of, yeah, but I really don't want to give that up.
Mm.
Oh, that's uncomfortable. Like, no, I
Yeah.
just want to keep this. So if you're looking at it from a magical practice perspective, what is it blocking? What kind of energy in you is it blocking? What can you not receive? Because, for example, if you want to have a new image, but your closet is full of clothes that fit the
Right.
old image, where are you going to put the new ones? Can you even see what you've got in there if it's so
Yeah.
blocked, right? Getting rid of the things that don't serve the new image will give you space for the new stuff. And it's amazing how it works. When you have space, things come into it. If you don't have space, it just shuts the door. That's
Right.
mundane, that's magical, that's all over the place. It's a pretty good rule of thumb.
Yeah. It's funny. I was kind of prevented from saying this for a few minutes, but no, I'm still being prevented from it. I thought I almost had it there to be able to say it. Now I don't even remember what I was going to say. It's not time
Ah,
yet.
one of those threads.
Yeah. Yeah, the visualization is almost like Agni is putting his hands over my eyes and my mouth, and it's not time. Quit it. Stop.
Okay.
So
Well, I'm
yeah,
sure it'll come up in a little while.
yeah. Well, one of the things I did want to mention, or I kind of started getting the idea to mention, was so we talked about, the truth being revealed. So that we take a moment to look at illusions for a second. So, or I don't know if that's the best way to term it. Like, so I've already said this, right? Like, so Agni looked to me like a humanoid obelisk, you know, with fire, which is not how he would traditionally be portrayed. And I also said it, same thing, with Manasa Devi. She's not portrayed as half woman, half snake. And again, Ganesh not portrayed the way he is. And, Ryobu from last episode showed up as a sumo wrestler instead of an Oni. And so I guess what I want to say is that I don't want people to get stuck on the imagery. As well as not getting stuck on the story, don't get stuck on the images. So if something comes to you and you think to yourself, wow, this doesn't look like the painting I saw or the description I read in a book, because it's not about that. It's about what you tell yourself and what imagery makes more sense to you. Since ritual is a part of Agni's job, a big part of it, his task as a god, then something that appears more ritualistic to me showed up. Basically, a humanoid made of stone, kind of like an altar. Like I used an obelisk, but like could be like the extension of an altar, you know. And that kind of sits more with me. And when I think about him that way, I get a better connection.
Well, an illustration for what you've just said that comes to mind is you can do Christianity, you can do Buddhism. I'm going to go with Buddhism because that tends to be more my thing,
Right.
um, where the stories differ oppositionally, right? Like you can have eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, and then turn the other
Mm-hmm.
cheek. If you're going with Christianity, you can have in Buddhism, there are stories of the Buddha traveling village to village and saying one
Yeah.
truth in one place and then something
Mm-hmm.
completely opposite in another place and getting called out for it and heckled and like told, well, why are you saying this? This can't be true. Which one's the lie? Like, what are you doing? And the Buddha pointed out, well, in this village, these people needed to hear this so that they could use it and work
Right.
with it. And in that village, those people needed to hear that. It's all true. It's just different based on where you are in your cycle, in your process, in your development, in your evolution. You're going to need things to be presented to you differently. So, expecting to have deities, spirits,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is you're working with, show up in a format that you can receive is,
Right.
of course it's going to, right? Like, why would you have something show up in a form that you can't relate to? The whole point is that you can relate. So absolutely, don't get stuck on it has to look this way because that's what they said, or it has to look that way, that's what I read, or Google says,
Mm-hmm.
like maybe so, but that doesn't have to be how it is.
Right. Well, what was it? Today I was watching a show on giants, and one of the things brought up was Saint Christopher. So Saint Christopher is apparently like anywhere between 12 and 18 feet tall, but that's not how
Cool.
he's described in a modern sense. But that's how he was originally described.
Well, look at biblical angels.
Yeah,
How do they look compared
right.
to the sanitized humanoid versions that we see depicted today? That's
Yeah,
not biblical. If you want to know what a biblical angel looks like, look for the description in the early parts of the Old Testament, and
yeah,
it's pretty terrifying. There's
yeah,
an awful lot of eyes involved. Like it's not what you think it is. If ever there was something you would look at and say that's got to be a demon, it would be the way an angel is described in the Bible.
yeah. Well, it's funny, right? Because someone had made a picture, kind of doing what it would have looked like when the shepherds heard the story, like when the shepherds came and told them, "Oh, the Messiah is coming." Because the line is like, "Fear not." And it's like, and then he says like you might be wondering why would you be afraid of an angel? But then the person goes, well, this is what the scene probably looked like. And you had the shepherd, and then you had the wheels there with the eyes and the fire, and it's like this is why he said fear not because they're scary looking.
Yeah, and frankly, I'd be saying something along the lines of "the hell with that,"
Yeah,
I'd run because those
right,
look pretty scary. Yeah, but you see, our minds can't handle that typically,
yeah,
and so it's been changed to these very fluffy, nice-looking humanoid things, and angels are all goodness and light. No, no, they're not. But and that's another mistake that you can make. Something may come to you looking like a white fluffy angel and
right.
saying, "Hey, I'm an angel and I'm here to do nice things." I would be very wary of this, very wary indeed, because that is highly unlikely. I'm just putting that out there. I don't think that's going to be a likely experience. That's not what they're most known for, and that's not typically how they would choose to show up. So if something's showing up that way, it's probably tricking you.
Right. Well, that's the thing, right? Like, but even like, yeah, like not to constantly beat up on Christianity, but if you look at original descriptions versus what they evolved to into Christian culture and not necessarily the Bible, there's a big difference between the images we tell ourselves in modern times and what things looked like, how people behaved. All those things are different. Like now, there's people, like I've said this before, right? There was an episode of Wife Swap, the American one, and the lady was like completely against astrology, like, oh my God, it's the devil's work. It's like, how do you think the wise men found Jesus? Like, they just didn't suddenly see a bright star and decide I'm going to follow it. There were portents, there were things they had been reading ahead of time that told them that, that bright star is important to follow.
I so
If
people
there's
like that
even,
fascinate me.
yeah,
People like that fascinate me. And if I can engage them in a conversation, I always want to know, what do you think it is exactly? How do you think astrology works? Or whatever the thing, witchcraft. What do you think it is? What do you think people are doing with witchcraft? And, do you think it's all blood sacrifice and hexes? Like, is that it? Do you think the Eye of Newt is actually from a little critter?
yeah,
Or do you know it's mustard seed? Like, where are we coming from here? And typically, on the occasions I do get to talk to somebody about their interesting beliefs, um, they don't actually know what they believe. They were just told by somebody that they have up on a pedestal that this is the case, and so they believe them. And that's usually the leader of the church or whatever. This isn't against religion. This is but I am very wary of people who lead in these environments. Some people are doing it from a very positive perspective, but a great many are not, and that's cause for concern. Religion is man-made. Spirituality is a whole different thing. But religion is purely for, we've said this before, it's control of a group of people by scaring the living daylights out of them that, you have to follow these rules or else.
right,
And yeah, I mean, I think I told you last week about this person who said, human beings are inherently
yes,
dark and bad and
mhm,
evil and all the rest of it. And this person is a devout Christian. Why? Like if that's the viewpoint that religion imparts, at least her version of it, then how is that a good idea? Like, why would you want to pass that on to anybody? It's the most restrictive environment. And spirituality and magic are exactly not
mhm,
that. And I think that's why people have a problem with it because, well, where's the rule book? How do you control that? Who's in charge?
right,
Who's the boss? Who gets to say what you can and can't do? Where's the line drawn? And for rule-based people, that can be problematic because, well, it's not there. And honestly, if you're a rule-based person and you still want to get into witchcraft, check out Wicca. Go for Wicca because they have rules. It's a religion version of witchcraft, if you will. It's the closest you're going to get. But they have a rule book, so go there. It's still cool. If you like rules, you can do that.
Yeah, yeah, because we talked about this when I was working with Kronos.
Mhm.
Kronos gave me some taboos, and I broke all of them. But what the
Which
reaction?
good thing for taboos, right?
But Kronos' reaction was like basically, yeah, I'll give you taboos, but I could feel in the background, it's like, God, it's a pain in the ass when we give taboos.
Yeah. I mean, taboos are either common sense
Hmm.
or they are a restriction that has come from a place of control somewhere,
Right,
and you got to really dig back to see what is the purpose. What who really benefits from this taboo?
right. Okay, I'm gonna take a moment. I'm gonna give a freebie shout out for WildFit. It's about freedom. It's about food freedom. It's not about the taboos you have. It's about why these taboos exist and maybe why you should look at that behavior. But you can't get rid of a behavior just by having a taboo.
Agreed. And now,
That's why I failed the
I
taboos because I was
and I'm
ready to
going to
let
be
those things go, and so bang, they were gone.
and I'm going to bring a slightly different angle in on the same
Mhm.
thing,
Right.
WildFit, which is in its origins, like so
Mhm.
many things, it came from a good place and had good freeing principles that have since become more locked down and regimented in certain places, and so needs to be worked with that knowledge. If you still want the freedom, then you got to look at where is the line being crossed away from that. And I'm
Right.
just going to leave that right there.
Mhm. Yeah. But the idea is like it's the taboos get in the way. Like if
Yeah,
a taboo is proposed to you, you can take it into consideration and say, why would I, what does this taboo represent? And why would this be something I should take out of my behavior? But like, I mean, if you look at the story of Samson, right? Samson basically broke all the taboos except for the hair. That's why everyone thinks his power comes from his hair. But it's a
okay.
taboo. He eventually was broken when his hair was cut because that was the last straw basically that made him lose his power.
Mm.
But
Well,
he,
taboos sometimes they have a sound basis, like, brother and sister having children together is a
right.
taboo. Good idea, because genetically that does not go well.
Mhm.
And, kids born in that way tend to have inherited problems that you just don't want to do that. That's not healthy for the species. So it's a taboo that's worth keeping, but it also shouldn't need to be a taboo. It's kind of common sense given the general knowledge that we have now. Or is it? In which case, for those where it isn't, it's a taboo. Um, Except, I guess, in certain parts of South America, but
Mhm.
Southern America, not South America. Anyway, we'll leave that one. Um, but taboos are community wide, and what's a taboo in one place is not in another. So you got to look at why. What does it mean? What rule are you breaking? What norm are you breaking?
Right.
And does it need to be there? And things evolve, and taboos need to evolve with them. So it's a thought. A taboo is a very interesting topic because it's a rule that's held sacrosanct, pretty much. Like you
Right.
cannot do that. You can't even talk about it. Like that can't come up. It's taboo. It's the
Yeah.
tree of life, right? Do not eat that apple.
Yeah. The
It's
tree of
the
knowledge.
taboo.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah. It was one of those weird things because I've heard it repeated a bunch of times. It's the tree of knowledge, and it's having the knowledge that ruined everything. So basically, essentially, would have been better off as a species if we were just all ignorant. But I don't know.
Which again is an interesting concept, right?
Yeah.
So knowing and being able to choose was the downfall of human beings.
Right.
Huh. Again, if you go with the creator image that's put in the Bible, then you've got this being that said, "Hey, I'm going to make everybody like me."
Hmm.
But they can't know anything.
Right.
Really? I don't know. Maybe it's beyond my human capacity to understand. But at the same time, I am deeply skeptical that something that flawed could create a planet and the human beings and the animals and all the things on it. Like it
Oh.
just doesn't seem to go with the power, right? Now, if you look at Greek pantheon, Roman
Mm,
pantheon, these are much easier to understand
mm,
because those gods are made as human beings with superpowers, basically.
mhm.
So they have all the human failings amplified, and then they have big kick ass power on top of it. So that there are major stories that can be told to tell you how badly that's going to go if you do that thing, or how to stay away from this over here. And the stories are larger than life, quite literally. That's the purpose. So the pantheons are they serve a purpose, and they were totally
Right.
put together by humans in the first place. But as you know, and many magical practitioners know, when you put your focus and your intention into something solidly enough, you create it.
Right.
It becomes a reality. And when you've got so many billions of people that have put their faith in Zeus or, pick
Right.
another one, yes, they're real, but they were created. We are the creators in that case.
Right.
So who's created in whose image?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, right? So this brings me up the opportunity of, well, two opportunities. One, I've noticed that so far we've had a lot of Hindu gods,
We have, which I enjoy a lot.
and but if you look at the population of the world, what's a big population base? The group that worship those gods is a
Yeah,
very substantial population, over 1 billion people. That's just counting India. That's not counting Pakistan, because until 1945 or until 1945, that was the same country.
quite.
So
But for Hinduism, another difference I think is that they haven't strayed from the original practices anywhere near as much as Christianity and
right,
even Islam have. Right? I'd say Christianity more so, but we do things differently now to how it was done a few hundred years ago, a few centuries, a few millennia ago. Whereas in India, same, it didn't
right,
change. I mean, I've been in a temple that was built in, I think 1000 AD, something like that was the estimate of the age of this temple, and it's
mm,
still standing and it's still being used, and it's the rituals are still happening in there. And that was in southern India, and it's like I have a picture of me in there actually. Um, and funnily enough, in the picture is fire, and I'm putting my hand over the fire. So that just came to mind.
right,
But it hasn't changed that much, and so the power is very concentrated
right,
in Hinduism. The people believe in their deities, and
right,
they do actively interact with their deities far more than the stuff we do here of oh hey, I'm going to pray for this thing and I'm going to pray for that thing, and oh, by the way, I really screwed up, so hey, if you
right.
forgive me, I promise I'll go to church, or whatever the bargaining is. That's a rather disrespectful way to work with your deity, honestly.
Yeah. As I keep telling people, God's not your personal genie.
Right? And it's rather disrespectful to just say, "Oh, hey, uh, yeah, I did that thing that I really knew I shouldn't do. So, if you could forgive me, I promise I'll go to church." And I've seen people make donations and stuff that
Mm,
are outrageously large. Why? Because they did something they didn't know what to do, and they're trying to buy their salvation. So, yeah, that currency doesn't work outside of here, though. It's an earthbound currency.
yeah.
You're not buying your way into the good graces of the spirits here. It
Yeah.
doesn't work that way.
As a former Catholic, I think back to papal leniencies. Pay the
Oh,
Pope
right.
forgiveness. Yeah.
Well, purgatory.
Hmm.
That came about. I don't know if the listener is aware of this, but I kind of I kind of like this fact because I
Mm.
think it illustrates so much about the way the church has developed. But purgatory didn't always exist. The
Nope.
Catholic priests were finding that people weren't giving them the amount of money they wanted to pray for them. So they created purgatory. Now, if your loved
Mm.
one dies and you haven't paid the priest to do the prayers, then your loved one goes into God's waiting room
Mm.
and hangs out there. And we call it purgatory. And it's an absolute shame on you and your family that you've done that to grandma. And you have to get the money
Yeah.
together to pay the priest so the priest will pray and your family member can carry on and go visit God, right? Now, if you think about that story at any level, any point in that
Mhm.
story, stop the narrative and just look at it and question, really? Is this what we're working with? Is this the point of being on this planet? Is so we can pay priests and you assume you're getting to heaven, right?
Mhm.
Like grandma must be going to heaven because it's grandma.
Right.
Yeah? Lily Lillian Borden might have been somebody's grandma. I don't know. But does she go
Mm.
to heaven because she's somebody's grandma? Like, there's so much that's questionable in that whole narrative, but that's how we have purgatory. And priests would take money from families that were
Mm.
starving. They would still take their last money. Wow. That's all I got to say.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a history to be rather ashamed of. And then we're not even going to get into the cover-ups of sexual abuse. Let's just
Yeah.
leave that one for a minute because we all know it's still happening.
Yeah. Well, the other thing, because I brought this up before, and I finally now remember what part it was. So the Gnostics believed that the Christian God was evil. They called him the demiurge or something like that. So this wasn't the
And
enlightenment.
Gnostics means knowledge.
Yeah. So
So where's their knowledge from? The whole thing is interesting, and I only throw in my 10 cents worth
mm,
from the human perspective,
right.
realizing it's my perspective. I'm putting it out there so
Mm.
that you can look at it and say, well, yeah, that makes sense, or oh, but I disagree. And, anyone that disagrees, okay. So long as you've got something a little more plausible than because I was told so.
Right.
Or, you have to have faith. Like you got to give me a little more than that. But I'm always prepared to hear somebody else's viewpoint because that's quite the pill that you're swallowing there.
Right. It's interesting, right? Because it's how people view things. Like I think as a kid, all the things I've learned and then that I see as an adult, like the big one, like there's only one God. And I'm like, but half the Bible doesn't work if that's the case.
Right? Well, it doesn't, because what are the other
Mm.
ones doing then? How is the trouble being caused by any other God
Yeah.
if there's only one God?
Well,
And what classification does Lucifer have, or Satan, or whatever terminology you want to use for the one that's,
mm,
under our feet? If that being can come and take souls and tempt people
mm,
into darkness and etc., all the things that
right,
stand accused of, would that not put that being in at least an equal capacity to
right.
God, who killed way more people in the Bible, by the way? So, it's interesting. There's only one God, but is there?
Yeah. Well, I mean, because if you think like, okay, so I'm trying to remember what prophet it was, but I remember like, how do you put your God against another God? Like, so in this case, it would have been Yahweh versus Baal. Well, if Baal doesn't exist,
Right,
why are you challenging Baal? Like,
right.
and why do the
And
Egyptian
and
gods exist? Why did Moses challenge the Egyptian priest? Because like, well, if their gods don't exist, what was the point of the challenge?
right.
Because they did
And
magic.
and proving
Yeah.
proving to people that your God doesn't exist isn't really an easy thing to do. So what, but I mean, again, the whole point was what? If there's only one God.
Yeah. Because the point was to show that Yahweh is the most powerful God. It wasn't to show that Yahweh was the only God.
So we have some questions, right?
Right.
So all this to say, I mean, we often get into religion because it's so in your face right now, and it's so present in the world. And witchcraft and wizardry is less so, and
Mm-hmm.
people feel threatened by it far more often. But we are not the threat. What we do is not threatening. What we do is work with nature, with things that you can't see air, you can't see what we work with, but they exist all the same. It's not a faith thing either. You'll know,
Mm-hmm.
like you'll get all the signs you could possibly hope for without doing the whole show me a miracle or I won't believe in you. It's like,
Right.
no, that's not how to go about things. It's a very childish way of stomping your foot and saying, yeah, but I want my candy.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way.
Yeah. But it's literally like, it's one of those things that if you don't know it till you know it.
Right. But
But
when you
once you
know
know
it,
it, you can't unknow it.
exactly. And I know that sounds like double speak to somebody that hasn't been there yet, but just hang on to it because you will know once you've gotten to that place, once you've experienced it. And it's just one of those things that can't be put into words. But you don't have to have faith per se. You have to have patience while you get there. But when you get there, you'll know.
Yeah. But I'll throw this in because this week I hung out with Patrick and his mom, my little sister, and we were watching the British version of the show Ghosts. Right. So you
Okay.
got the woman running around the house. She can see the ghost. Her husband can't. And at one point we're talking. I'm like, my sister goes, "Oh, that would be cool to be like that." I go, "You're like that now. There's like probably like 50 spirits here right now that talk to me all the time, and you're like sitting here totally oblivious to it."
Right. Yeah, actually, I know some people who, one of my clients has her ex-husband is a ghost that shows up a lot
Right.
to see the grandchildren and, to just generally hang out. And more than once, he has been asked to tone it down a bit because it gives the kids nightmares. And but it's,
Yeah.
all of them have recognized this, even the most skeptical are like, yeah, no, it's definitely him and he's definitely here. Could we just like get that presence a little less obvious, please? It's, scaring the kids. Um,
Right.
but he hangs out for whatever reason. I mean, if ever
Hmm.
she asks me, I'll certainly look into it with her because he ought to be doing something else by now.
Right.
He should have moved on. I'm not quite sure why he hasn't. But, if she doesn't ask, I ain't looking.
Yeah. It's funny. So just for the listeners, there's the American version on Paramount, and there's the British version, which I'm imagining it's done now, the series, after 5 seasons. But I watched it on CBC Gem, the Gem app. But
Mhm.
I personally don't do full apparitions. I've done one, and the fact that it's in your field of vision and looks real, that gets in the way of your real life. So me, I do the like psychic radar thing, right? Where I sense them and then my visual cortex resolves them in my mind, not in my field of vision. Because like you don't want to be seeing things that aren't physically there all the time. That's my take on it
That, that
anyways.
that could be problematic.
Yeah.
Yes, I can see how that would be. But I don't think you get to choose your clair so
Right.
much. Like clairvoyance, clairsentience, clairaudience, all of these. It's you have the one you have, or the two that you have.
Mhm.
Could even be three, but and your knowing will show it to you in that way. And the one I don't have is the clairaudience. I don't hear things, but that must be absolutely mind blowing for somebody that does have that. I have the sentience and the voyance, but not the audience, so I don't hear it. But wow, that's got to be kind of tough to navigate.
Yeah. To
How
me, I
many
like
people have been called insane because of it? I wonder.
yeah. I like the two compartmentalized from each other. Just makes navigating both easier.
Hmm. Well, I don't tend to get both at the same time, so
Yeah. I have the joy of living in both worlds. So
right. And I think a lot more people have these abilities than realize it. Just like with intuition, every single person on this planet has intuition. It is an inborn ability. We
Right.
all have it, but we're also taught from the get-go to ignore it. So you hear things like use your head, think about it. Is it common sense? All the brain things, which isn't helpful because it takes you away from the knowledge that you were born with and from the intuition. The one voice that will never ever lie to you is your
Right.
intuition. And it's the one voice that is now. It's not past, it's not future. It is right now. And it has one thing to say, and it will say it one time, and you don't get a second opinion. And it's not going to change.
Mm.
So intuition is unique and absolutely essential to our existence. And yet we're taught as little kids to squash it, to ignore it. And I find when I'm working with people through human design, quite often one of the toughest things they have to learn is to trust the intuition, because I can get them to
Right.
tune into it fairly quickly. That part's not so hard. Trusting it's a whole other thing, because we allow the mundane, the thoughts to overrule. Now, the thoughts that you have, they come from somewhere.
Right.
You didn't generate them. You've taken them on, you've kind of developed them from external information, but it's all from elsewhere. Whereas intuition is you.
Right. Well, that's the thing, right? We're always seeking inspiration from our environment, be it material or spiritual. We're always seeking it in our environment. That's why we can be fooled by things, because people are intentionally using cues to mislead you, knowing you're seeking inspiration from your environment.
And sometimes you're going to be willing to be misled
Right.
because it fits the narrative, it fits what you want. It
Mhm.
gives you a sense of comfort and stability and all those other wonderful illusions that make us feel better. But, I was working with someone, she was working on me rather than me on her.
Mhm.
Um, and funnily enough, her name's also very close to Agni. And she said, you're hanging on to an illusion of safety. There's no safety. Where is your safety?
Right.
Is it in, is it in the house that you're in? Well, we've already said that could be reduced to rubble with an earthquake
Right.
or burnt out with a fire or, any number of things. It's not safe per se. It's here right now. Are people safe? Mm, Generally, you might not want to
Mhm.
rely on that. It's just, a little bit iffy. So, what is safe? Where is your safety? Is it safety having money in the bank? That's cool until, the government changes its mind on
Right.
how that works, or
Right.
somebody hacks your account and runs off with it all.
Right.
Then where was your safety? So, safety exists same place as your intuition. It exists within. But how much do we externalize that too? So there's so much that we put in the external world that gives away our power. It leaks it out there, and we're focusing on the wrong stuff. When you go inwards, that's when your magical practice can really start happening. You get in touch with that inner fire, and off you go. You can do all kinds of things. But when it's all external and relying on external things to provide, okay, now you got a problem because that's unreliable. It's not going to happen.
Right. It's funny because it brings up the healthier you are and the more secure you are in yourself, like if you're healthy, right? You feel healthy, physically healthy, you're more likely to take risks. You're more likely not to be afraid of certain things. Like I thought about it. So when I felt more healthier, I would go for walks at night, even though I live near the woods. It's like healthy or not, I don't really stand a chance against a bear or a pack of wolves. Like no matter how healthy I feel. And I can't outrun them if they decide to run me down. Like, but yet I don't feel as scared when I feel healthy. Because I think, well, maybe there is something I can do. But when you don't feel healthy, you think, oh, there's nothing I can do. And therefore all your courage and stuff goes away, and you start to become more vulnerable to anxieties and overthinking a situation and that. So my point being is that no, I don't remember what my point was.
I have one.
Okay, go ahead.
I can jump in for you.
All right.
So the point is, it depends on the foundation that you have yourself as to how you're going to operate in the world immediately. So, what I mean by that is if you're coming from a place of abundance, if you will,
Mhm.
like, oh, I really appreciate that I have this roof over my head, I have food in the kitchen, I have this, I have that. You appreciate those external things and you acknowledge that you have them so you don't have to worry about them. You can kind of step on that like a stepping stone, if you will. But
Mhm.
the more you feel like you're in a good place, the more you can do from there, the more open you are to doing things that you would not do if you were contracted, if you felt like you were in a
Right.
place of lack, right? So, decision making, for example, if you're job hunting, let's go with that one for a second.
Right.
If you're job hunting and you're thinking, well, shit, I can't pay my rent. I haven't, I've got 2 packets of ramen left
Mm.
and just ran out of Coke and whatever else, right? And or everything you're looking at is how much you don't have.
Right.
And then you're looking at jobs, you are likely to be way more flexible in what you would accept as worthy of your time. You wouldn't even consider whether it was worthy of your time. It's just, can I get money here? Yes or no? Right. And you would likely choose something pretty low level. And by low level, I don't mean the type of work, I mean the congruence with you, the alignment with who you are. That's what I mean by low. It wouldn't be suited because you're just going to take the first thing that comes along. Whereas if you're feeling like, okay, I got good things going on. I'm in a good space and I want a better job than the one I had last time. I'm looking for something that
Right.
fulfills me. And your sights are set higher. And you're not even going to see that crappy stuff that you would have chosen from a place of lack. So if you take that real world situation
Mhm.
and you put it into a spiritual world situation, well, what are you looking for? What do you expect to have come back?
Right.
If you're looking low level, then that is what you will see. That's what you'll bring back. That's what you'll call in. So if you anticipate that things are going to be hard and I'm going to get, grumpy spirits and I'm probably going to end up with a poltergeist in the house and whatever else,
Mm.
yeah, you will. Sure. Because that's exactly what you're calling in. But if you want something more
Mm.
special, more aligned, more uplifting, then you got to come from a better place to find it.
Yeah. All right. Now I'm stuck in between a couple of messages here. So I know because this is an episode on Agni, Agni wanted to say something. Okay. So fire.
I
Fire is
just
the
have a
gift.
fire pit in my vision, by the
Yeah.
way. All I
Yeah.
can see is a fire pit in my vision. So what have you
Mm.
got?
Well, Agni standing by a fire. So fire is the gift I'm giving to you. Fire is the gift I want you to learn how to use. It brings honesty by revealing that which is within. It makes you change. All right.
Forever changed.
Yeah. Well, you can't go back. Once you burn something, you can't go back to it. So
Huh?
that change is permanent, or that is inevitable. The change you need to make is inevitable.
Last does not return to send.
No. And that is my gift to you, are his last words. Interesting.
There's a
Um,
lot of layers to that.
Yeah. See, and that's because we were talking earlier, and I said, sometimes we were talking about timing of things, and it's like sometimes I'll get like this impression that I have to do something that's going to take like 2 days to do it, and it's like, 5 minutes, and then I'm done, and I'm like, okay, well, you guys, talking about spirits, you built me up to like thinking this was going to be a huge task, and then it took 5 minutes. Its importance was huge, but the actual accomplishment of the task didn't take very long.
Well, time is immaterial. Like it really is. We went through this with Chronos.
Right.
It's how you perceive it, but it's not really a reliable measure of anything. Because, for example, if I'm okay, let's take the work that I do. If I'm working in human design, hours can go by and I can have worked with different people, totally different directions, done a whole bunch of work, whole lots of, charts and what have you, and I feel invigorated and I don't know where the time went.
Right.
Now, if I'm doing work that is more tedious and the energy is kind of stuck because the people I'm working with are reluctant to change what they need to change in order to move forward, then that slows time down hugely. And 1 hour can feel like three. So, time, it's the same time, but it's not the same time.
Right.
And, I was saying to somebody yesterday, can you imagine? It's August already.
Hmm.
How did we get to August so quickly? And at the same time, politically, are you kidding me? We're
Yeah.
only in August? Like,
Right.
and both of those things are true at the same time,
Hmm. Yeah.
right? So it's not a good measurement. And so you can think, oh, this is going to take years or months or days or whatever it is. It doesn't have to. It just depends. How hard do you want to make it?
Yeah.
It's a great question to ask. Like, how much struggle would you like right now? How tough do you want it to be? It'll be that tough. So, like in the US, more so than in Canada, there is the culture here of, well, if you're not struggling, you're not trying hard enough.
Right.
And surely you're working three jobs like everybody else. And the whole glorification, like I've seen
Yeah.
advertisements where the woman is awake in the morning and it's pitch black
Mm.
outside and she grabs her coffee and heads off to the office, and when you next see her leaving the office, she's grabbing her coffee again and it's pitch black again,
Yeah.
right? And she's so freaking tired looking. There's bags under her eyes, and she
Mm.
just goes home and goes to bed. So it's like that's it. That's her life is coffee and office. Well, who said that was a good idea? Like the only people to benefit from that are the owners of the company. And this is, it's slavery. It is absolutely slavery with a slightly different parameter, if you will. But it's still slavery, even if you get money for it, because they're keeping you in a space where you have to struggle. You don't have to choose that, though.
Right.
Not everything has to be a struggle. And sometimes the changes, the transmutations can happen in an instant, even though you might think, oh, this is going to take months. Like, this is huge. It is until it isn't. It's
Right.
one of those things when it drops in, it's like, oh, okay, that was it. Cool. All right, got it. And some things will take longer. It just depends on how much resistance you put up.
Yeah. It's true.
Before the podcast, we were saying about how trying to control the outcome or trying to control the path to the outcome, even, can actually make it take a lot longer, seem a lot harder, and
Right.
probably isn't going to go there, right? It's
Right.
you're not going to get there in the end anyway. So that's an example of choosing to struggle versus not. You
Right.
can float down the river in your canoe, or you can paddle real hard upstream.
Yeah.
Where are you going? Like, which one do you want to do?
Yeah. All right. There's one more thing for Agni. So we've done Earth, we've done air, wind, Ryobu. We've done the Earth Mothers for Earth, and we're doing fire. The next one is water. That's on next week, though. I already know who's for next week. But I guess it's pay attention to the symbolisms that hide in the podcast or that are showing up in the podcast, even the things we may not be aware that we're saying.
But the listener, we sometimes get it right after the podcast too. We'll be
Yeah,
sitting here talking to each other and be like, ah, we should have recorded this bit
yeah.
because we're getting the clarity dropping in afterwards. And it was like, oh, hey, when that piece came out and we said that. And so, yeah, it's
Mm.
sometimes it's in the processing, it's not the immediate wording. It's not what we're
Right.
saying so much as the process that sparks.
Well, that's the thing, right? Because it's the like a couple times this episode, right, where like I lost completely the wording I was going to use because it wasn't necessary. But these could be setting off threads or branches, whatever you want, to go into your own consciousness to try to think about things. So pay attention to that going forward. And even when you're listening to old episodes, if you go back on them, because that lives within this podcast. The things that even we didn't know we were saying.
Yeah, and bear in mind, I channel a lot, so
Yeah.
I often hear things for the first time as I'm saying them. Um, and don't think about it ahead of time. I actively do not, because that would block what comes in. So I just come in as an open slate and then we see what lands. And I always have faith, I trust that something will come in because it does. That has been my lived experience. So I go with it.
Yeah. So the idea is pay attention for water. Have we mentioned water already, or are we going to be mentioning water as an element? Interesting. And I'm wondering why it was brought up, but I'm going to let it be what it is because I already have a busy day, anyways, going on for myself. But
Okay.
yeah, that's it from Agni. Yeah, I'm going to say this even though it probably goes without saying. After you listen to an episode, go check out the stories about the entities we brought to you. I mean, because we don't sit here and do like spirits 101 and tell you, oh, this is their culture, this is where they came from, this is their history, this is how they're supposed to look. Like we don't do that. So for yourself, if you're interested, go look into them or talk to someone from that culture
Or both.
or both. Yeah.
Or both. I mean, just think about it. If you talk to somebody who claims Christianity
Mm.
as their religion, if honestly, if you get 10 people in a room, you're going to have 10 different opinions as to
Right.
what that looks like. So, likewise with Hinduism,
Mm.
I would say do both if you can. That'd be fantastic.
Right.
Look it up from different sources. Whoever resonates with you, right? Like I'm particularly fond of Akalandeshvara, and I'll say that again a little more
Yeah.
slowly, Kilandeshvara. And it literally means she who is
Right.
never not broken. And this is, visualize the Japanese art of taking a broken bowl and then fixing it
Mm.
with gold in the cracks and making it more beautiful than it was before.
Mm.
Akalandeshvara represents a lot. I'm just going to invite the listener to go look her up.
Mm.
She rides on a crocodile. So if you see a female riding on a crocodile, standing, of course, as Hindu gods
Mm.
do, um, you've probably got Akalandeshvara.
Right.
A little homework for you.
Yeah. All right.
And she rides on a crocodile, so that's bringing water in, right?
Yes. Well, we'll see. So just for because we've been doing this for the listeners, next episode is going to be the hell did I say it was? Narada Muni? Narada Muni. I'm only working with them right now, but hey, whatever. Yeah, so God of Mischief, God of the veneer, or whatever that musical instrument is there. Veneer. Anyway, God of Mischief, God of Music, Cosmic Messenger. That's who next episode is going to be about. Kyla's looking something up.
Say the name again.
Oh, Narada Muni, because he's either known to have mastered it or to have created that musical instrument.
Okay. Well, as we have been doing
Mm,
recently, I'll do the my little bit of blurb.
right.
So, yes, Narada Muni is a prominent figure in Hindu mythology, known as a divine sage, wandering musician, and storyteller who acts as a messenger between the three worlds.
Right.
That's Earth, Heaven, and the Netherworld, or the Underworld.
Hmm.
Is a devotee of Lord Vishnu and is renowned for his wisdom, devotion, and the ability to travel freely throughout the universe. Now, that's something that speaks to me very significantly. Like, I'm very interested in that. And Narada is often depicted as a celestial messenger carrying news and wisdom between different realms among gods, demons, and humans. Um, Noted devotee of Lord Vishnu, but also possesses the unique ability to travel between the three worlds, making him a bridge between the different dimensions and beings. This could be a very interesting direction that the podcast moves into, actually. That
Right.
just came to me. He's skilled in music, often depicted playing the veena,
Vina. There you go.
which is a musical instrument, and considered a gifted storyteller. So he's significant in Hindu mythology, sometimes causes conflict or brings about positive change.
Mhm.
Oh my, where did we get that from?
Yeah.
Like, really? That could be happening right now, do you think? Um, yes, he also has a little, he cursed Vishnu, which is quite something given that he's a
Mm-hmm.
devotee, foretelling his separation from his consort Lakshmi as a consequence of an earlier event.
Mm-hmm.
And he warns about impending wars. So he's also a herald, if you will,
Right.
of things that are going on. So yeah, there's a lot. And Narada, last thing I'll say, there's more, but the last thing I'll
Right.
say, Narada is present at the churning of the ocean by gods and demons, which
Yes.
is a pivotal event in Hindu mythology. And if you look up nothing else, I heartily recommend you look up the churning of the ocean as a mythological event.
Mm.
It's way more entertaining than the floods of Noah.
Right. Yeah, actually, I haven't looked it up. I knew that part of the story. I just hadn't looked it up because I've been busy, well, working with Narada.
Is it? Mm-hmm. Well, that's something that I think would be very interesting to look up. But we have got ourselves a multifaceted figure here: wisdom, devotion, musical talent, and divine messenger, agent of change.
Right.
That's exactly what we're doing right now. That's all the
Yes.
things. And music is language of the gods. So yeah,
Yeah. Well,
Om is the sound of the universe.
yes. Like I said, I have been I've said it on the episode before. I have been compelled lately for the last little while to sing more.
Yep, it's the sound of the universe.
So it's very much a thing going on. All right. Now. Okay. So go forward, look for that fire, that divine fire. I mean, real fire, if that's your thing, but divine fire for sure. Try to see it in your breath. That was the last I can throw in. And with that said, and once again, I'm Daniel Dubois.
And I'm Michaela Gaffinstone.
Until next time.
Until next time.